Greetings and salutations. This is the voice of Loquacious of Herd, bringing you his afterthoughts on My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Season 6, Episode 15, titled 28 Pranks Later. I heartily suggest you find and watch the episode itself, sans commentary, before proceeding with either this Afterthoughts review or viewing my full reaction, which is hosted at the link in the description. Be warned, this Afterthoughts review will contain spoilers for the episode. With that out of the way, on to the review. I had a lot of fun watching this episode. A lot of fun. If you watch my reaction, you will hear me burst into laughter on a great many occasions in the third act. As I theorized, we did indeed get an episode about pranks and about zombies, and it was glorious. Let's start with the beginning. The episode opens with Fluttershy and her critter friends returning home, late, from a woodland excursion. I suspect this wasn't to the Everfree Forest, but rather to Whitetail Woods, the other and much safer woodland which lies near Ponyville. You know, the place where the Cutie Mark Crusaders and their sisters all went camping back in Sleepless in Ponyville. A lovely episode where we learned Luna could enter Pony's dreams, and where Rainbow Dash took Scootaloo under her wing as a kind of older sister figure. Even so, it was nice seeing how Flutters had become more bold, even to the point of being the one reassuring the slightly spooked Harry the Bear. Enter Rainbow Dash, in full pranking mode, and in costume as some sort of horrible monster. Oh yes, we're going here again. A couple of points. First, I find Fluttershy's fright to be quite appropriate. While she's grown much less timid than she used to be, back in Season 1, I doubt she would even have stayed out after dark, even on accident, and even in so safe a place as Whitetail Woods. Fluttershy is still a pony who, as we know from Scaremaster, is easily frightened by the spooky and the horrifying. Further, on the subject of her being frightened, this isn't some ordinary monster that's made a sudden appearance as night is falling. With ordinary monsters, both natural animals and many exotic fantastic beasts, such as manticores, Fluttershy has an intuitive empathic connection with them. She can understand them, communicate with them, befriend them, and, when necessary, be quite strict with them. But this apparition? It isn't something her animal communication gives her any insight into. It roars, and those roars are just noise, when for Fluttershy, usually such roars would carry words, meaning, demands, cries of pain, or pleas for help, which makes this thing something truly dreadful indeed, something like a terrible demon, or wicked changeling, or some other awful horror. This isn't just any old beastie. And the particular awful horror we have here is a bored Rainbow Dash who's decided to amuse herself by going into full-on pranking mode. We've seen Rainbow Dash in prank mode before. A few minor ones in Testing 1, 2, 3, an ongoing Frighten Every Pony running in the background of Luna Eclipsed, and most prominently as a main plot thread in Griffin the Brush-Off. One of the things I find interesting about Rainbow Dash as a prankster is that when she's paired with Pinkie Pie, as in Griffin the Brush-Off, Pinkie Pie exerts a moderating influence on Dash. And I find the idea of Pinkie Pie being the moderating influence on some pony else's extreme wackiness is a rather brain-bending thought, but in this case it seems to be true. Pinkie Pie has a much better sense of what sort of pranks will be amusing to both the prankster and to the one being pranked. Thus, when the two of them rampage throughout Ponyville prior to Gilda's arrival, every pony rolls with the pranks as just being in good fun. Likewise, when Rainbow Dash seems perfectly willing to prank Fluttershy, it is Pinkie who puts the brakes on that one, knowing that Fluttershy is not one to respond well to being pranked. Oh, you can prank Fluttershy, it just isn't fun for her. In contrast, when Rainbow Dash has been pranking others without Pinkie Pie, Rainbow seems focused almost exclusively on what she finds fun, not on what others will enjoy. Her thunderclaps during Nightmare Night briefly incapacitate Spike and even ruin an attempted reconciliation between Pinkie and Luna. Consider Rainbow's reaction to Spike's gasp, gurgle, collapse, and twitch. Twilight is shocked and at least a little upset about the whole thing, calling out Rainbow Dash's name. But Rainbow Dash just blows it off as if it were no big deal, regardless of the considerable distress she caused Spike. And in Testing, during Twilight's history lesson, We got a variation of the old whoopee cushion gag, one involving a car horn, a prank which Twilight clearly did not find amusing at all, though Rainbow got a good laugh out of it. Even if neither Spike nor Aloysius were willing to give her a high five over it, Rainbow just shrugged and moved right along. So we have an established problem right off the bat. Rainbow started pranking ponies again. And while she can be clever, creative, and quite hard-working with her pranks, she can also sometimes be sloppy, lazy, or immature. But most importantly, Rainbow Dash lacks empathy. Now don't get me wrong, she's developed quite a bit in the whole empathy department since Season 1. In competitions, she's a much better sport, and able to take genuine enjoyment in the accomplishments and triumphs of others. But when it comes to pranking, make no mistake, Rainbow Dash has a mean streak. And she's never really learned how to rein that mean streak in so that her forays into pranking shenanigans can be something enjoyable for all. So, here's a lesson that needs to be taught, but how to do it. One of my criticisms for the episode Mysterious Ne'er-Do-Well is that it struck me as odd that we never saw any of the other main six trying to talk to Rainbow Dash when she got on a bragging tear, to really sit her down and try to talk to her about how her "I'm better than every pony else" attitude had ceased to be endearingly self-confident and was starting to stray into the Trixie at her worst levels of boasting. And while this episode bears some similarity to Ne'er-Do-Well in that both center around Rainbow Dash behaving badly and then having her friends come together to rather pointedly teach her a lesson, this episode avoids that criticism nicely. Further, as we transition out of the credits and to a friendship meeting, an intervention that has been called to address the problem of Rainbow Dash's thoughtless and hurtful pranking, we learn the meeting has actually been called by Fluttershy herself. Kudos, Flutters! Again, lovely development for her, showcasing how she has grown more bold, willing to stand up for herself, even if it means an open confrontation with a friend. I couldn't see Season 1 or 2 Fluttershy even making the attempt, much less succeeding at rounding every pony up to give Dash a stern talking to. Alas, stern talking tos just don't do it for Rainbow Dash. She learns by doing, not by reading, nor by having things explained to her. Her takeaway from the attempt to get her to stop being quite so mean is that she just needs to prank harder. Ah, the glorious whooshing sound of a point being very thoroughly missed. And into the prank montage. Pranks which start off absurdly complicated and overdone, and which are not at all appreciated by the recipient, gradually devolving through relatively less complicated and rather more damaging and disruptive shenanigans. At least no pony got seriously hurt. In the end, it's not just the main six, it's the entire town that's had enough of this. So they approach the only pony who might be able to really talk some sense into Rainbow Dash about the whole pranking thing, Pinkie Pie. Again, I love how rather than jump straight from Rainbow Dash is misbehaving to let us unite to get her back, every pony takes the very mature step of trying repeated ways of approaching the situation through dialogue to ask respectfully that Rainbow Dash respect other ponies' personal boundaries and lay off the pranking. Kudos to the writers for entirely avoiding one of the great possible pitfalls for an episode like this. I'm glad the show took the time to attempt to resolve the situation in multiple ways without just immediately descending to a tit-for-tat sort of reverse pranking scenario. But once again, this is Rainbow Dash. As mentioned before, she learns by doing. Testing established that. So her response to Pinkie is not only to refuse to lay off the pranking, but to attempt to enlist Pinkie in a massive, and rather lame, or so I thought, attempt to prank every pony. Every pony. At this stage, I was entirely on board with the idea that enough was well and truly more than enough, and Rainbow Dash needed to be reversed pranked hard. Hard enough to drive home the points of exactly why what she had been doing was wrong. Oh, how sweet this revenge was. Earlier, we had established that the Cutie Mark Crusaders were preparing to start selling Girl Scout, Philly Guide cookies. Rainbow's prank was to switch out all the Philly Guide cookies with her own joke cookies, cookies that would make every pony's mouth and muzzle drip rainbow colors. I don't know if that was frosting or magic, but either way, it was a neat look. But what's this? Pinkie Pie wasn't available to help with the switcheroo. Sure, Rainbow Dash managed to get it all done on her own, but what's up with Pinkie Pie? What's up is that she's come down with some unspecified illness, one which is draining away her color and leaves her weak and coughing and craving joke cookies. Indeed, the fervor with which she demands cookies from Dash is quite disturbing. And this was when I realized what was to come. Pinkie was patient zero. We were going to have a full-on zombie apocalypse in My Little Pony. I flashed back to Luna Eclipsed and that one little filly who at the thought of Nightmare Night being cancelled had sobbed, "But I want to be a zombie pony next year." Well, it's a bit more than a year later, little filly, but tonight your dream comes true. So off we go with the CMC, Applejack, Rarity, and Rainbow Dash to sell cookies to every pony in town. And oh, do those cookies sell! Rainbow Dash is laughing all the way, certain that soon there will be an uproar as ponies find themselves with rainbow mouths. Only night has fallen, and there's no uproar, only silence. Eerie, eerie silence. So Rainbow Dash sets off back into town alone to see what's up. The music, the atmosphere, the ambiance, the animation, they were perfect. It was spot-on zombie movie, The Rise of the Trotting Dead. Into Sugar Cube Corner and the dramatic reveal of Mrs. Cake, a rainbow cookie-hungering zombie pony, then Pinkie Pie and the twins. Fly, Rainbow, fly for your life! If this weren't TVY, they might mistake your mane for the cookies they crave, and then it wouldn't just be symbolic gore dripping from their slathering mouths. Oh, the whole town has really gotten into the spirit of things. As Rainbow darts from pony to pony, dodging the shambling horrors of her once neighbors and friends, she finds even Twilight and Spike, why even Fluttershy and her animal friends, have all succumbed to the zombie plague. They have become cookie monsters, the Trotting Dead, zombie ponies, and the entire thing is so wonderfully, amusingly camp. I love it. I couldn't stop laughing. Back to the uninfected, the survivors. Rainbow regroups with Rarity, Applejack, and the CMC just in time to stop them from eating the cookies, or so it seems. Time to flee the shambling horde. Applejack, Rarity, Applebloom, Scootaloo, and Sweetie Belle all play their roles to perfection. Confusion and seeming distress, but also guiding Rainbow Dash to exactly where they want her. While fleeing in a blind panic with the cart of the remaining cookies, it is Sweetie Belle who says they have to find someplace to hide. And right on cue, Granny Smith shambles into their way. So quick detour, stage right, while Applejack leads them on with a "this way, she knows someplace they can hide out, the barn." With nods to The Walking Dead and the original Night of the Living Dead, the survivors barricade themselves in the barn. Then the questions come out. What is all this about? What did Rainbow Dash do? She admits that she tried a prank, but she's come to believe that the joke cookies have some mystery ingredient that has made every pony who eats them turn into mindless cookie-craving zombies. And thanks again, show, for actually using the Z word there. Brilliant! Her crime confessed, the zombies assault the barn. They seal it up, and Rainbow expresses her hope that they can wait out the effects. Only, horror of horrors, it turns out that Rarity, Applejack, and the CMC have all eaten the cookies too. Rainbow Dash is trapped in the barn with them, and the other zombie ponies, with a little help from Applejack, break in to shamble towards Dash and the cookies she is striving to keep from them. With a cry of terror, the scene fades to black, as in true horror movie fashion, the zombies overwhelm the last remaining... sorry, that's not how this one ended. I must be thinking of my One Hope's entirely unrelated fanfic. Anyway, the entire town gets to pull a gotcha on Rainbow Dash. Rainbow-colored mush masks are wiped away, and it is revealed that after Dash informed Pinkie about the nature of the joke cookie prank Artie had planned, Pinkie turned around and got the whole town to back her up on reverse pranking Dash with a zombie apocalypse. Dash is not amused. She was genuinely terrified, hurt by the thought that she had brought real pain and suffering to her friends and neighbors. It had been an awful experience, and even seeing at the end that it had been a joke, there was nothing funny at all about it for Rainbow Dash. Exactly like all the pranks Rainbow Dash had pulled on every pony else. A little reinforcement of this from the others in the main six, and Rainbow, in her own has-to-experience-it-herself style of learning, finally sees what they did there. She gets it. Not only does she get it, but she immediately puts it into play by pretending not to have learned her lesson, even after everything every pony had gone through. The end result of which was a hearty laugh, shared by all, which is how pranks work when they work their best. And kudos to Rainbow Dash for growing a bit as a pony. If you wish to see my full reaction to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Season 6, Episode 15, titled 28 Pranks Later, the link, as I mentioned earlier, is in the description. Feel free to leave any comments or likes for that reaction here on this Afterthoughts review. And until next time, as always, kindly remember, y'all are awesome. Stay awesome.